All right. So, since we're very, very close to the election, and early voting has started in many states, including mine, an article has come out discussing conspiracy theories about the election. So let's just get right into it. What conspiracies are out there, which there are a lot. All right. Voting machines reversing votes, more voters registered than people eligible, and large number of non-citizens voting. Actually, in Wisconsin, there is a referenda that wants the Constitution amended to prevent non-citizens from voting. The funny part is that it already says that. It says every U.S. citizen can vote. It does not say even resident. It's not ambiguous. Ambiguity. I can't say the word today. But the Republicans want to waste money with a referendum that says what is already in the Constitution and what is already illegal. Non-citizens voting. Not a thing. There might be some who either accidentally or maliciously are trying, but one, it's not going to matter. It won't change anything. And two, we know about it because they get caught. Duh. But let's continue with the article. With less than 2 weeks before Election Day, a resurgence in conspiracy theories and misinformation about voting is forcing state and local election officials to spend their time debunking rumors and explaining how elections are run at the same time they're overseeing early voting and preparing for November 5th. Truth is boring. Facts are boring, and outrage is really interesting, says Utah's Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, a Republican who oversees elections in her state. It's like playing whack-a-mole with truth, but what we try to do is just get as much information out there as possible. That's true. When you hear some crazy conspiracy theory, it sounds much more exciting than to find out that no, that's not actually happening. Or because people want to feel like they know something that the higher-ups don't know. So it's fun, it's exciting, it's wrong. This year's election is the first presidential contest since former President Donald Trump began spreading lies about widespread voter fraud, costing him re-election in 2020. The false claims, which he continues to repeat, have undermined public confidence in elections and in the people who oversee them among a broad swath of Republican voters. Investigations have found no widespread fraud or manipulation of voting machines 4 years ago, and each of the battleground states where Trump disputed his loss has affirmed Democrat Joe Biden's win. It's ironic that the very people that Trump needs to win are the same people who Trump has convinced that the system is rigged and your vote doesn't count. Now, like I've mentioned before in my electoral college videos, he's not completely wrong. I mean, it's not that the system is rigged. The system runs as it's supposed to. It's just not rigged in the way that people think. Like, how many times? It's happened 5 times in, I don't know if it's just modern history or history, where a president won the electoral college but lost the popular vote. So, which, as it so happened, it would be the Republican winning the Electoral College and the Democrat winning the popular vote. So, there are people, including Republicans, who think that we should just go by the popular vote and just dispense with the Electoral College, which I understand that, and I don't see why, because in most states, it's rather assured that either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump are going to win the votes. Now, if you happen to be a Kamala Harris voter in a red state, under this system, your vote literally doesn't count because you know that the majority are voting for Donald Trump, and so you can do it for statistical purposes, but it's not going to sway the state. It's just the battleground states, which is why you always hear about Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, campaigning incessantly in the same states. Because those are the swing states. Those are the ones that aren't definitive whether they go red or blue. They can go either way. And the rest, it's assured that they go one way or the other. If you go by popular vote, then you have to campaign everywhere. You can't just assume that, the majority, a slim majority likes you in a certain state, so you're going to win that state's votes, the Electoral College votes. So this way they have to campaign everywhere, and that keeps them honest because they can't just skirt around the campaigning and just concentrate on certain states. But anyway, back to the article. In the past week, U.S. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene claimed a voting machine had changed a voter's ballot in a Georgia district during early voting. I don't believe a word that comes out of that witch's mouth. And I think I just insulted witches. And Elon Musk, the billionaire owner of the social media platform X, has promoted various conspiracy theories about voting machines and voter fraud, both online and at a rally for Trump in Pennsylvania. The floodgates are very much open, said David Becker, a former U.S. Justice Department lawyer who now leads the Center for Election Innovation and Research, a nonpartisan group that works with state and local election officials. This is making election officials' lives much more difficult, he said. Well, yeah. And that's not even getting into what happened in 2020 when Giuliani actually said such vicious lies against Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss that they got death threats, that they don't feel comfortable. Not only did they quit their jobs as election workers, but they don't feel comfortable living in their town because they're afraid of what's going to happen. All based on lies. But luckily, Rudy is now penniless. So at least something came out of that, but still. That is just horrible. Why would you do that? And, of course, Rudy's hatred was tinged with racism, but still. What the hell? Luckily, he's going to be sleeping under a bridge for the rest of his life, so there's that. And no, I have no sympathy. He knew damn well what he was getting his ass into. Eric Olson, who oversees elections in Prince William County, Virginia, said combating misinformation has become an important and challenging part of the job. It's really difficult from our position a lot of times because social media feels like a giant wave coming at you and we're in a little canoe with a paddle, he said. but we have to do that work. On the campaign trail, Trump has repeatedly attempted to sow doubt about the upcoming election, something he did ahead of his two previous bids for the White House. Even after he won in 2016, he claimed he had lost the popular vote because of a flood of illegal votes, and he formed a presidential advisory committee to investigate. The commission disbanded without finding any widespread fraud. It's almost like he was lying the whole time. Who would have thunk? A liar who lies. This year, Trump claims that Democrats will cheat again and uses "too big to rig" as a rallying cry to encourage his supporters to vote. Election experts see it as laying the groundwork to again challenge the election should he lose. It's funny. One of these YouTubers that I follow, Glenn Kirshner, who's a former federal prosecutor, that's exactly what, now he doesn't use that exact slogan, but he does encourage people to vote in numbers too big to rig and too real to steal. So it's not just Trump that's doing that, except that he's the one who's trying to rig the election, whereas when someone like Glenn Kirshner says it, it's because he actually wants to prevent fraud and just make it so Trump can't whine and say he lost. Not that that would stop him, but... And, I just don't understand. I mean, if the system is rigged, number one, if the system was rigged, then he would have lost, not just the popular vote. That's number one. Number two, how can you claim that a system is rigged when down ballot races are a thing? I mean, was it just rigged against you when they magically voted Republican all the other times? And that somehow was fine? Because the Electoral College only is a presidential thing. That doesn't work for state races. There is no Electoral College for that. We have congressional districts, we have Senate districts, we have local elections. It's totally different. So, what the hell? Republicans won the House. I just don't know. Or wait. They won the Senate. No, they won the House, lost the Senate by a razor-thin margin. Are you seriously telling me illegals came and just voted for Hillary or voted for Joe and didn't bother with any other race? I don't understand where the rigging comes in. Anyway, spreading bogus accusations about elections has other consequences. It's already led to a wave of harassment, threats, and turnover of election workers, as well as a violent attack on the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. And yeah, so a lot of election workers, there are going to be a lot of election workers around the country who, depending on when the turnover happened, they're going to be new. So there's going to be even more uncertainty. Because if you're new, and if you happen to have a boss who's also fairly new, the chance of mistakes happening are greater. So basically this is what the Republicans want. First, they claim that there's incompetence, there's rigging, there's fraud, and then they make sure that the system is in place to actually prove them right. The conspiracy theories that have surfaced in recent weeks are not new. They have been long claims of vote flipping, with the most recent one surfacing in Georgia and Tennessee. A claim in Georgia's Whitefield County was highlighted by Green on Alex Jones's InfoWars show. I thought he was living under a bridge. I thought that the Sandy Hook families took him for everything he had. Jones has a history of spreading falsehoods and was ordered to pay $1.5 billion for his false claims that the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre was a hoax. Because, that's what decent human beings do. County election officials issued a statement noting that the case involved one voter out of 6,000 ballots that had been cast since early voting began. The ballot was spoiled, and the voter cast a replacement that was counted. Officials said there was no problem with the voting machine. But, facts never got in the way of MAGA Republicans. Or, actually, there's quite a few Republicans that facts have not gotten in the way of. Gabriel Sterling, Chief Operating Officer for the Georgia Secretary of State's office, said every report they've seen so far of someone saying their printed ballot didn't reflect their selections on the touchscreen voting machines has been a result of voter error. Which makes sense. I mean, I've heard of people who, whether because they can't see or just assume things, and this isn't even a touchscreen, this is a paper ballot, who circled the wrong circle. So mistakes happen. But, of course, it's nicer to claim fraud than to admit that you just made a mistake. Because sometimes that happens. Your eyes go from one line to the next, and boom. You'll vote for the wrong person. There is zero evidence of a machine flipping an individual's vote, he said. Are there elderly people whose hands shake and they probably hit the wrong button slightly and they didn't review their ballot properly before they printed it? That's the main situation we've seen. There is literally zero, and I'm saying this to a certain congresspeople in the state, zero evidence of machines flipping votes. That claim was a lie in 2020, and it's a lie now. In Shelby County, Tennessee, county election officials said human error was to blame for reports of votes being changed. Voters have been using their fingers instead of a stylus to mark their selections on voting machines, officials said. In Washington state, Republican Jared Sessler, who is running for the state's 4th congressional district seat, shared a video on social media this week that claimed to show how easily fraudulent ballots can be created. But the video did not make clear that voter information on each ballot is checked against the state's voter list. All right. Alrighty. A ballot returned using fake voter registration information would not be counted and is illegal in Washington state, Charlie Boisner, a spokesperson for the Secretary of State's office, said in an email. But again, let's not worry about things like facts. Musk recently invoked Dominion voting systems as part of his remarks at a rally in Pennsylvania. I see Elon Musk wants to get sued by Dominion too. It wasn't enough that, Fox News and Newsmax had to be sued, have their asses sued to eventually shut up about the voter fraud thing because, it was costing them money. Now Elon Musk wants to lose money too. It wasn't enough that he lost money just buying Twitter. All right. Seeming to suggest its equipment was not trustworthy. Again, we've been through this. Dominion has been at the center of conspiracy theories related to the 2020 election and settled its defamation lawsuit against Fox News last year for $787 million over false claims aired repeatedly on the network. The judge in the case said it was crystal clear that none of the allegations made by Trump allies on the network were true. In a statement, Dominion said it was closely monitoring claims around the November 2024 election and was fully prepared to defend our company and our customers against lies and those who spread them. A request for comment from Musk was not immediately returned. Right, because probably he heard that and said, "Oh, I should keep my mouth shut." At least if he was smart, he would do that. Musk, who had endorsed Trump, has repeatedly pushed misinformation about voter fraud to his 200 million followers on the X platform, where false information spreads largely unchecked. Because free speech. He has often sparred online with Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. Recently, the two tangled over Musk's claim that there were more registered voters in Michigan, a presidential battleground state, than people eligible to vote. Benson said Musk was including in his count inactive voters who are scheduled for removal. A federal judge on Tuesday tossed out a lawsuit filed by the Republican National Committee claiming problems with the state's voter list. What a mess. During an interview last month, Benson said she was disheartened to see someone in Musk's position repeating false information. I'm sorry, have you not been paying attention? He's been down that right-wing rabbit hole for a while now. Actually, that's probably why he bought Twitter. If he was sincerely committed, as he says he is, to ensuring people have access to information, then I would hope that he would amplify the truthful information, the factual, accurate information about the security of our elections instead of just amplifying conspiracy theories and in a way that directs the ire of many of his followers onto us as individual election administrators, Benson said. It's something that we didn't have to deal with in the 2020 that creates a new battlefront and challenge for us. Because he doesn't actually care about information. He doesn't care about free speech. He just cares that his speech and the speech he agrees with is amplified. He doesn't give a shit about facts. If he did, he wouldn't be silencing people with factual information. Anyway, that is the end of that article. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.